Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Amplify Speakers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sun. In this podcast, we talk with some of the most inspiring and best stories of people from all over the world. Today's guest is an award-winning international speaker on resilience, leadership. He was an American Ninja Warrior City finalist and a former peak performer strategist for Tony Robbins. He's been featured on Good Morning America, Yahoo Finance, and even Lay's chip bags nationwide. He's also the author of Creating Momentum in Your Life, where he teaches practical strategies to build confidence, discipline, and lasting success. Hoan Do, welcome to the Amplify Speakers podcast.
Hey, Chris. Pleasure to be here. I'm excited to connect further.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, to say the least. We had a good chance to talk a little bit earlier, but you have you have a lot of really amazing stories and a lot of really great advice. And so I'm just looking forward to digging in, learning a lot more myself and sharing that with others.
Sounds good.
So I want to kick off and go a little bit on how did your journey in speaking begin? Where did it all start at?
It started when I was 17 years old, junior in high school, where I was attending a student leadership conference. I heard a speaker, his message was creating your own destiny. And this was the first time ever I heard someone say that you have the ability to succeed and you play an important part in it. And in that moment, a light bulb clicked in my head. A lot of people say they want to make a difference in people's lives, but they don't know how. In that moment, I realized that the speaker not only impacted my life, but 300 other people in the room as well. And so that was my light bulb moment that if I were to do this, I could help more people in my lifetime versus only having one-on-one conversations. So he became a mentor when I was 17. He planted a seed when I graduated high school. He says, Juan, you need to write a book. And he kept watering that seed, and through different relationships that I built, I ended up working as a peak performance strategist for Tony Robbins. But it was back when I was 17 where I knew that this was my calling and my purpose in life.
Wow. I mean, to think of the ripple effect that person had on you, and then how much that's multiplied since then in all the lives you've been able to impact, doing the same thing on some pretty large stages. That's incredible. Have you talked to that person since to let them know the kind of impact they made on you?
Yeah, of course. So one of the lessons I share with people I mentor is one of the greatest gifts you can give someone who's made an impact in your life is just being in touch with them and letting them know what you're up to. And so I've stayed in touch with him ever since I was a junior in high school. He even came out and watched me speak at one of my events. And so not only does he know the impact he's made in my life, he's a part of my life as well.
I absolutely love this. I think it's too often that we do have those people that maybe make a difference, especially early on in our life, and we don't always take the time to tell them that. And I don't know if there's a much better gift you could give someone than to just reach out and let them know, like, hey, you may not remember this moment, this time, but I do. And I just want to tell you that.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's see here. You knew what you wanted to do at a really early age. Now, what did you do? I mean, you talked about you need to write a book. What all steps did you take to continue from there?
So great question. So I attended Pepperdine University down in Malibu, California, with a lot of help from financial aid and scholarships. Once I got there during my first semester, I started off as a business major. But then I got an email from the business division where they had a credit, no credit class called Success 101. And it was taught by two young alumni. One was a serial entrepreneur, got involved in investment banking. He eventually worked as the country manager for Maserati, Rockstar Energy in Romania. His goal was to be the U.S. ambassador for Romania. Other gal, she's a triple major from Pepperdine. She graduated, got an advanced degree from NYU, was one of the youngest chief marketing officers in her industry. She eventually worked as a communications consultant for the United Nations. What these two individuals did was they helped me to realize success is not about what you know. It's not about who you know. It's about making meaningful connections with people, going beyond the surface and figuring out how can you help others with no strings attached. Because when you can be of service to others, when you need help, those individuals will be willing to go out of their way to help and support you with your goals. So they taught me how to make meaningful connections, build relationships. And so after my freshman year, I returned home to Washington. I ran into an old high school friend. And as we caught up, he started sharing different books with me. Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And out of all the things he gave me, what resonated most was Tony Robbins' Get the Edge program, because it was about succeeding in every area of your life. And so during my sophomore year, I studied abroad in Florence, Italy. About 90% of my luggage was real estate investment DVDs and personal development books. When I got home, I interned for a big real estate developer in the Washington State area. And it was during my junior year where the financial aid office said I had too much money. And so they cut me a check for $5,000. I took half of it, paid $2,500 to sit front row to see Tony Robbins. And when I saw him, one of his most powerful quotes is, if you want to succeed, model success. And since I already knew what I was supposed to do, I wanted to work with the best. So I started building meaningful connections with those within his organization. By the time I left his Unleash the Power event, I connected with over 20 different individuals within his organization. When I got ready to graduate, I connected with people who were speakers for Tony Robbins. And eventually, after graduating, I landed a role as a peak performance strategist with Tony Robbins.
That's incredible to know at that time and what you're willing to do to make that connection. There's a lot of people who are sitting and have seen him speak in that stage. And my guess, very, very, very few people can say they've ever had the chance to ever meet and talk or work with Tony Robbins.
Yeah, it was a very powerful experience, and it was an invaluable time period of my life.
That's amazing. So what was one of the best things you learned while you were working there?
It was learning how to understand people on a significantly deeper level. This is what I mean. He often says that people take action based off of two things, either pleasure or pain. For the majority of people, it's pain that drives people. And one of the things I learned when I started speaking is, he said, you can be a great speaker, but can you influence people in a positive way to take action? And so he helped me to realize quickly that you can be eloquent with your words, but if you're not moving people to take immediate action, then what's the point? And so I learned very quickly through asking meaningful questions on how to get people to identify what is most important to them, what's holding them back, and then most importantly is to get them to take action on their own will to move forward in life versus just getting into this cycle of wanting to do something but making excuses or reasons not to do it. I think that was probably the most powerful thing I learned from Tony Robbins, is how to influence people in a positive way to get them to take action on the things that they've been wanting to do but for some reason has not been able to do.
Yeah, I want to break that down for a second, because you could gloss right over that pretty easily. It's not easy to talk to somebody or have a conversation with somebody and get them to then go out and change a behavior or go act in a certain way or go work on that goal that they've probably been had for a long time. And one of the parts that you said, so I won't say quickly, but you was kind of in the middle there, was how important meaningful questions are. And so actually got a little taste of that earlier before we even started this. And I think one of the great leaders know how to ask great questions. And so I was very impressed, to say the least. What's one of the questions that you really love to ask people?
I'll tell you one question I love to ask people that would be very applicable to those who are watching or listening in is when you're working with other people, whether you're in a leadership role, which everybody is, or you're working in a team dynamic. One question I love to ask team members when I have our weekly calls or new potential clients or friends is, hey, before we get started into things, I'm just really curious, what's been positive in your life, personally, professionally, or both? The reason why I love this question, let me share it in a different context, is let's say in a team environment. So many people are used to just jumping into meetings, and a lot of times people are just exhausted. But when you take a moment to show that you care and ask a question like that, one, it gives you insight of what's happening in a person's world. Two is it puts them in a positive state because you're asking them to share something that's positive in their life. So you get further insight what's going on with them. But then two, it sets a completely different tone for a conversation or for a team meeting. So that's something very simple and practical that I share with leaders and teams across the world when I speak is if you want to improve culture, if you want to make meaningful connections, then to ask, what is something positive in your life, personally, professionally, or both, before we jump into things?
Yeah, that's a great way to start the conversation. It too often can jump right into a meeting, or we do jump into a meeting, and like you said, that's very transactional. It's, hey, we're here and we're doing a job, we're going to get it done, and feels kind of like the assembly line, just in the cadence of a meeting. And taking that time, that's a great question, because you're taking time to build that I care about you. I want to genuinely know what's going on, and hearing that, and it starts. And what a better way to start a meeting off.
I'll tell you this cool story where when you take the time, right, it's like an investment, right? We think about for a loved one, a child, a coworker, is when you take that time up front, you learn this insight, but then you can always go back to it and connect further. I had a client where I asked that question, and she said, what's positive in my life is my son. I'm just so proud of him. He's getting ready to start college this year. I'm just so excited for this next journey for him. I said, oh, that's so great. Where is he going to school? And she said, oh, he's going to Embry-Riddle down in Prescott, Arizona. I said, that is such a small world. For the last decade, I've kicked off their new student orientation where I speak to the incoming class. And what was neat was that conversation was in the fall time. And then orientation was like 8 months later. And I had a chance where her son came up to me. We took a picture together, and I sent her a little message, and she says, thank you so much for taking this time to connect with my son, right? That for me, it was special because one, if I didn't ask that question, him and I never would have had met. But because of that question, I got to see what lights up her world, but I had a chance to make a meaningful connection with her son in person. So many great things can happen from this question. And so my hope is that for those who are listening, for those who are watching, is just try it out and see how powerful it can be and how it impacts and improves your relationship with those that you ask this question to.
Man, you got me on that story, I'm not going to lie. When it comes down to people's kids, I'm just thinking, I put myself in those shoes, and I think of the people that have any type of that impact, be it teachers, coach, anyone. And I don't think the right words you could ever say for gratitude, right? The people you care the most about in your life. And so you doing that, like I said, you got me just listening to the story for a second. It took me back in the best way possible, but I love that. And once again, just shows you're there to make an impact no matter what. And I love the no strings attached.
Yes.
And I just demonstrated that. So I'm going to switch it up a little. You talked about writing a book early on. Is that when you wrote the book? Because I don't really know when did the book come out? And
Yeah, so to share a little timeline, I met this speaker back in 2002, right? That's when I was 17. And so after I graduated college, that was 2007. So there was some time. He had to water that seed for a while, but it was 2 years after leaving Tony Robbins. It was 2009 where I wrote my first book, Succeeding in the Real World: What School Won't Teach You. And the purpose of that was to share the life lessons that you wish you learned in school that will help you to succeed in the real world. And so that was based on my life experiences, things I wish I knew. And we had the book launch at the largest university in Washington State, University of Washington. And that's when I started my speaking practice and my career. So it's been 17 years since I wrote that first book, where now I've been blessed to travel around the world, bring practical strategies and tools specifically on how to cultivate unshakable resilience so that we can confidently navigate uncertainty, adapt quickly, and elevate our total performance.
that's incredible. And what a long tenure to do that and kicking it off with the book. I guess then where on the timeline, because there's some pretty big things you've done. And the one that probably sticks out, if I don't ask people, would be like, "Are you crazy?" Is how in the timeline with all this, the books, the speaking, and working, how did American Ninja Warrior come into this story? How
Yeah.
did that come about?
You know what? I think oftentimes the best things in life are things that are not planned. I remember I was at my cousin's CrossFit gym. I was climbing his peg wall, and they took a picture of me and they posted it on their CrossFit social media saying, Hoan Do beastin' the peg wall, hashtag American Ninja Warrior. And when I saw that, I was thinking, I can do it. And so I Googled how to compete on American Ninja Warrior. And it was fascinating. It's like filling out a college application. It's this long, extensive application sharing your story, athletic background, all of this. And then you had to create a 3-minute video to share your story. And that was the application to get the show. What people don't know is tens of thousands of people apply to be in this show, but only a very small number get selected. It's like applying to an Ivy League school. And so after I sent in my application, I continued exercise and training, staying fit. And I remember one day, as I'm leaving the CrossFit gym, I get a call from an unknown number. I pick it up, and they said, "Hey, is this Hoan Do?" I said, "Yeah, this is Hoan Do." They're like, "Hey, this is Jeff. I'm a producer at Ninja Warrior. We just want to say congratulations. We want you to fly down and compete on Venice Beach." Now, when I got this call, I was excited, but I was more shocked. It was kind of like an out of body experience because I was thinking, oh, okay, cool. I hung up the phone and I just casually walked to my car and just drive home. As if I'm like, did this seriously happen? I'm just kind of just in shock. So once I get home, it finally hits me, and I start sharing with loved ones and friends. And of course, my cousin, they're CrossFitters. They supported me. They're cheering me on. And then that's really when the work really started, where I started to train 2 times a day. I woke up at 6 a.m. in the morning, where I trained at a local Ninja Warrior gym, where the owner was on the show a couple years in it beforehand. So he had a chance to give me really valuable insight. And then I'd work out in the evening times, and through all the traveling, wherever I would travel, I would Google American Ninja Warrior gym. So I would train while I was on the road. So this happened maybe 5 or 6 years into my speaking, where I had this opportunity. What people don't know, though, is that 1 week before flying down to Venice Beach, California, I'm locked in, I'm in the zone. My coach says to me, Juan, all you need to do now is just relax. Just don't get hurt. And I'm thinking, thank you, Captain Obvious. I'm like, dude, that's so basic. But a couple days later, I was training. I was specifically at a trampoline place. You know what I'm talking about, where they have all those trampolines and kids are jumping around? I go there, I'm thinking, you know what? They're going to be trampolines on the show, and I need to do some training on this because I haven't practiced enough. I go to this trampoline place. As I'm jumping around, I'm looking, I see these kids doing backflips. I could feel a little my ego creeping up. And I was thinking, these kids can do backflips. I'm about to be an American Ninja Warrior. So as I'm jumping around looking, I try to go, I run to the side, I kick off the wall. As I land down, I can feel my ankle bend in a way it should not bend. All of a sudden I hear this loud pop. I fall to the ground. My ankle is growing to the size of a softball. And in that moment I thought to myself, did you just completely mess up your opportunity to be on American Ninja Warrior? And what this moment made me realize is that oftentimes in life, we all are working hard for something that we really want. Whether it is advancing within our career, being a better spouse, a better parent, we all are working towards goals. And oftentimes, unexpected things happen. And it's during these moments that we're tested. I believe that our ability to thrive doesn't come down to our age, our background, what resources we have or don't have, but it's how we respond during those moments. And for me, that's why cultivating unshakable resilience is so important. Unshakable resilience is not about pushing through, staying strong, and being mentally tough. What it is about is being emotionally fit. It's cultivating that inner strength that's not just come from being mentally tough, but rather it's something you develop from inside so that when these moments arise, you feel not only comfortable but confident that you can overcome them. And for me, I share what I call my FIT framework. It's having the courage to face reality head on, a adaptability to initiate change when necessary, and lastly, it's realizing emotional fitness is not about doing things by yourself, it's about thriving together. So to be fit, face reality head on, initiate change when necessary, and thrive together. And so that moment is what helped me to create this framework, because after I got injured, I was thinking, Juan, you're an idiot. But I was willing to face reality. I couldn't change the fact that I hurt my ankle. But I didn't say, you know what? I was frustrated. I was overwhelmed. But I was willing to acknowledge my emotions so I could process my thoughts and then move forward. After I did that, I made calls to my physical therapist, my chiropractor, and we had to change our game plan. But they helped me to prepare for the show. I was able to walk within a couple days. Friday, I flew down. I competed in the city finals. I made it past the first round. I made it on national television. That all happened because I realized I couldn't do it myself. I had other people to help me to overcome that challenging situation. And so that was my experience on Ninja Warrior. It happened about halfway through kind of this 17-year speaking journey. But that moment helped me to realize that when we run into challenges in life, it's not just about pushing through, staying strong, that what we've heard about resilience, that's like the old way to approach it. But the new way to approach it is realize that we all can develop this muscle of unshakable resilience by facing reality head on, initiating change, and thriving together.
Wow, what a great story. And a really amazing framework. If I know this is an area I'd like to get better at, and you said I want to develop, you're talking about developing the muscle, what would be a good starting point to lean into?
I think a great starting point is choosing which part of the framework resonates with what you're hearing. So facing reality, right? Oftentimes a lot of people think, it's all good. It's got to be positive. And the reality is that's easier said than done. When we go through hard times, it's saying, you know what? Man, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling stressed out. And maybe it's journaling, talking to a friend, exercising. That's how you can face reality head on, is by acknowledging your emotions and thoughts. initiating change. Not everyone likes change, but if you're willing to adapt with new technologies, to try something new out, you're more likely to succeed, because there's this beautiful picture online, you can Google it, but it's your comfort zone, and then on the outside where all the magic happens. If you're willing to try that thing that's outside of your comfort zone, you flex that muscle to be more adaptable during challenging times. And then maybe for you, it's thriving together. Maybe the person listening to this right now is, I do things on my own, I'm okay. But the American Psychological Association, they do a Stress in America report every year. And as they list down the different stressors, they may change year after year. The number one answer to how people overcome the adversity is consistently the same. It's through social connection. Social connections, relationships, is the number one thing that has helped people overcome the stressors in their life. And so when you think of the FIT framework, I would encourage those listening and watching is, which one do you feel would be the most difficult for you to focus on? Whatever that thing comes to mind, is I would invite to work on that. Because when you work on that muscle that's most difficult, once you get it strong, when problems come, then you can eat problems like that for breakfast.
That is some great advice. And all three of those in themselves, I think for anybody, are naturally difficult. We're creatures of habit. We don't usually like to get out of the comfort zone. And it's easy to say we want to face reality, but if something, bad in someone's life, you get hit with someone you care about letting you down in a serious way, that's, those type of situations, we can say, oh, we're going to hit it head on. But in reality, a lot of times we avoid it, we let it fester.
Yes.
And once again, the loneliness, and I don't want to use the word loneliness because you don't even have to be lonely, but to have the right people in your corner, and to have somebody that you can go to, and especially the right people at the right time. I really love that. I mean, those are three pretty core areas to lean into.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So I'm going to take this from we're talking this impact and all the how to make people better. And not saying this doesn't, but it's a fun story. I brought up earlier, you were on a Lay's chip bag. And so I'm going to twist this up a little bit. How in the world did you get, your smile on a Lay's chip bag? Besides, you do have a good smile. I mean, I gotta give you that. I want to hear the story.
Yeah, so in the background here, you can see the Lay's chip bags for those who are
Yeah.
watching. And this is a close-up where it has my face on the Lay's chip bags, and the back has a picture of me and my story. And so this happened during the pandemic. And when we think back to that was a time of high uncertainty. And I remember I had a friend that was on the Lay's chip bags a couple years prior. And really, they were searching for individuals that were making an impact on their community and around the world. And so I was nominated to be on the Lay's chip bags. And it's funny, the criteria had multiple components. One was the impact you're making, your story, but one was actually, of course, your smile. And so during this process, they had asked us to take a picture, and smiling in as many ways as possible. So I cannot remember how many times I contorted my face, but usually I have one pose is just one smile. And so my wife encouraged me, hey, you gotta be playful. And so we started smiling in all these funky different ways. And when I was selected, that one that's in the background, that's the smile that they chose. And so I was fortunate to be part of a group of people that were just really inspiring, different stories of making a difference in their community. And every bag sold up to $1 million was donated to Operation Smile, which is a international nonprofit helping to provide life-saving surgeries on those with cleft conditions. And so that was just a fun experience. Again, like Ninja Warrior, something that was not on my bingo card of life, things to do. but it was such a blessing to be a part of that, to connect with great people, and to spread smiles during a very challenging time.
What a great time to do it, and an amazing cause. I didn't know that when they did that, it was going to Operation Smile, and it is such a great cause. Okay, I'm gonna ask you to do something because I don't know what's on the back there, but and I'm sure it's gonna be slightly awkward because it's about yourself. But what does the back of the bag say? Out like back then, what was wrote? Because that's been a while.
Yeah,
What?
so it says overcoming adversity in life. Juan has allowed Juan to connect with others in a powerful way. Traveling the world as an inspirational speaker, he spread messages of hope and positivity to more than 250,000 people.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
code, and then they learn more about my story.
So that was, let's see, that was 5, 6 years ago during COVID. I want to take this into the future.
Yeah.
5, 6 years from now, if they came back and said, 10 years later, we're going to write this again,
Yes.
what do you want it to say on the back of the bag?
That's a powerful question. If it was 10 years from now and we were in the bag, Juan is an amazing father, husband, and a person that is serving people worldwide. He's impacted over tens of millions of people, not through his words, but through his team. That is the backbone that makes all this happen. We've helped employ more people. We've had the opportunity to create more magical moments with those I love. For me, life is about family and loved ones. I've been very blessed to have 2 unbelievable parents, truly living saints. And I have 5 nephews and nieces. And for me, it's creating more memories with them, traveling, creating experiences, and making a difference to those in my local community. It's as simple as that.
That is perfect. We had a chance, earlier we're talking and, just telling your story of how important those people are to your life and how they got here. And we were all born, with pretty blessed abilities. And I think it's up to us to use those abilities to hopefully, to serve others. Man, you're walking and talking and doing just that. And absolutely blessed, to say the least, to even be having this conversation. It's impressive what you're doing. And I have no doubt in my mind that you could write that 10 years from now with the path you're taking. So I want to kind of wrap this all up as we're going. Is there anything you want to talk about or anything to throw out before we are done?
No, I just appreciate this time. I appreciate for those who are watching or listening here. You're doing such an incredible thing with this podcast, Chris, and it was such an honor to be here and to have this conversation and connect together.
Appreciate that. Pleasure is all mine. In the description for everyone listening, I'm going to have a link to Hoan Do's website as well as LinkedIn page as well, and a link for his books as well. So you can go to that and learn more by clicking on the description. All right. Well, thank you again. I appreciate having you on your Hoan Do. Until next time.
Have a great one.
You too.